A little boy went into a drugstore and reached for an empty milk crate and pulled it over to a payphone. Can I ask for honesty for a second? How many of you have seen a milk crate at some point? I hope there's an answer to that, right? Have any of you, who's actually used a payphone? Has any of you ever actually used a payphone? Yeah, like 3 of us right here. Okay. We'll explain it later. The kid climbed onto that milk crate so that he could reach the buttons on the phone. And a little nervous, he proceeded to dial. Well, the store owner observed and listened to the conversation. When the other party answered, the boy said, "Good morning, ma'am. Can you give me the job of cutting your lawn?" And she replied, "I'm sorry, I already have someone doing that job for me." But the boy persisted, "I'll do it for half the price of the person who cuts your lawn right now." The woman answered, "I'm very satisfied with the person who's presently cutting my lawn." Now, with even more perseverance, the young boy said, "But I'll even sweep your curb and your sidewalk, so that on Sunday you have the prettiest lawn in the whole town." And one last time she replied, "That's already being done wonderfully. No, thank you." With a smile on his face, the little boy replaced the receiver on the phone. Now, the drugstore owner, who was listening to all of this, walked over to the boy and said, "Son, I like your attitude. I like that positive spirit and determination, even though you got turned down. I would like to offer you a job here in my store." And the boy replied, "No thanks." Confused, the owner said, "But you were really pleading for a job on the phone just now." To which the boy replied, "No, sir. I was just checking my performance on the job that I already have. You see, I am the one currently cutting the lawn for that lady that I was talking to." I think it would be safe to say that that young boy in our story serves as a great example for us in a number of ways. Perhaps he's a good example of integrity and honesty. Or maybe he shows us the importance of hard work. Or finally, maybe the value of doing the right thing. Here's the deal, doing the right thing for the right reasons. I would hope that each of us have other similar real people in our lives who also set good examples for us. Parents, relatives, maybe even some of our teachers, friends, or teammates here at the Prep. And today we celebrate the feast of our school's patron, St. Edmund, another such individual. And that's also part of what a patron is, someone who sets a good example for us, someone whose lifelong values are ones which we could follow. If you don't know, I'd like to share 3 of those with you from the life of St. Edmund. Well, one of the first things that Edmund was known for was being a scholar. A noted student and eventually a professor, math and geometry was his thing. Now, if you're not a math person, don't immediately tune this out. There's more to him than just a squared minus b squared equals c squared. I'm waiting. Okay. There's a couple of us who got, that's not really what it is. Just so if you need to, you can go back and review. But even to that point, when I read more about St. Edmund, I learned that even though he was eventually good at school, that was not always the case. He struggled at times with learning and had to spend long hours committed to his studies. Talk about an example for us here in school. Which of us in school or in life has not been confronted at some point with a challenge? But we can take a page out of his book, St. Edmund's book, as an example not to give up, but rather in the classroom, on the field, on the court, to give more when the going gets tough. A great lesson for us as students and young men and women as well. Well, secondly, in Edmund's time, England was going through quite a few difficulties. Maybe you remember from your history class, but during the 11th and 12th centuries, everything wasn't always so great in Europe. And during his time as a teacher, he also served in a nearby parish, kind of like I do. And the writings in his diary tell us that he was so struck by the poverty of the people around him, how many went without food and the basic necessities of life. It was staggering to him. So our patron, our example, saw this need and responded. He began to give of himself, spending most of his own salary and selling many of his own possessions to help them. What a wonderful example of showing true, genuine care for others. I'm sure that here today, St. Edmund would be proud of us, proud of you here at his prep. Maybe showing that we too have learned that lesson, that we see a need and we respond. The model of our school is caritas, in genuinely giving of ourselves for others. This year, we can't even keep up with the number of students who want to help with things like the day of service or midnight runs or the food kitchen, quite literally reaching out to those who are in need the most. Or with our upcoming Street Corner Gourmet event, we've sold more shirts than we've ever before. And then next Wednesday, students, teachers, faculty, people here will take a half day before a 4-day Thanksgiving break. And instead of getting a head start on vacation, hundreds will head to the cafeteria, put on some music, spend the afternoon just like the kid in the earlier drugstore story, doing the right thing for the right reasons, caring for others. It's part of who St. Edmund was. It's part of who we are here today on Ocean Avenue. And finally, St. Edmund was a priest. He's actually the Archbishop of Canterbury. A little fun fact, that when a priest is ordained, specific things happen. One of which is his hands are blessed with chrism oil. If I could just share, as the oily Italian that I am, that was my least favorite part of the ordination ceremony, that I did not need any more oil on my hands and my forehead, the way that they put that day. But when a priest's hands are anointed, that's done because, unworthy as we are, these are the hands which are now called upon to impart God's blessings and God's works to others, something which St. Edmund did many times as a true priest of Jesus. I hope perhaps you remember from your freshman year retreat, for those of you who've gone already, and the class of 29 will hear more about this on Wednesday, the theme thereof is blessed, blessings. And here at the prep, we are certainly blessed. Let there be no mistake, your presence here in our school community is a blessing to all of us. And there's no magic to this. It's all about recognizing our blessings and deciding, am I willing to follow the example of our patron saint, St. Edmund, and commit myself to that? Determination, especially when things are tough, which can sometimes be the case. Generosity, especially caring for those most in need. Prayer and thankfulness for the many blessings that I have in my life. That's the deal. Determination, generosity, prayer, and thankfulness. In this, still towards the beginning of our school year, we say to all of you here, welcome and congratulations, Eagles, newest and continuing sons and daughters of St. Edmund. I know that you do and will continue to make him and us truly proud.